child is too much on the digital screen, and then how to take precautionary measure when they have to study on the digital screen. Can we go to the next slide? Do I get a... Okay, you can move. So, the three main symptoms of digitalization in a child is that you get inattention, which means the child's attention span shortens. And when the child is about 3 years, the child should be able to do one thing for about 10 minutes. So let's say it's your daughter, the daughter gets up and brushes teeth, doll brushes teeth, has breakfast, and the doll has to go to school. And she has to go to school, and the doll's school is your child's desk. So we always recommend that you must give your child, when the child is about 2 years old, a desk and 2 chairs. So the teacher of the school is the daughter, and the doll is the student. So she teaches what she knows, Baba, Black Sheep, and Jack and Jill went up the hill or whatever. And then in about 10 minutes time, 15 minutes time, school is over, and the school bell rings, and people and teacher both come home, and then, afternoon and all that. So you're training the child for a 10-minute attention span when the child is 3 minutes, by 3 years old. When you give the child a digital screen, child has no sense of span. Child is on it all the time. Agreed? So the child scuttles the initiation, navigation, successful in conclusion, good reward. That's how our default mode network of thought develops. That's how God has designed us. That design is ruptured when a child doesn't have that opportunity to initiate, navigate, successful in conclusion, well done. Now child herself says inside her, well done, I did it. So our initial well done must come from inside. Of course, mom or dad or caregiver will also say, well done. But we get used to this internal sense of doing something well, the successful in conclusion. You don't scuttle in between. That is the attention span. So when a child is about 5 years old, the attention span is about 20 minutes. I think in many countries, the first year of school, a period is 20 minutes. Our country is 30 minutes. So the teacher teaches substance for 20 minutes and stories and other things to pack up the time. Then child is capable of a 40-minute period only after 10 lifelong, meaning when you start something, do one thing. Do that one thing. Brain is not into multitasking. So multitasking is a myth that the market develops to get you to consume 3-4 products at the same time. Tell your neighbor, multitasking is a myth. So you do one thing, concentrate for 40 minutes, reading the newspaper, writing something, project or whatever it is. Then you take your eyes off to do whatever else you want to do. But if it's a student, if you study for 40 minutes and you get on the digital screen for 20 minutes, what do you think the child will remember? What she studied or the games on the digital screen? Obviously the games, the pixel screen is the most brain-intensive thing. So now researchers call it electronic cocaine, because I'll come to those graphics, because that's the effect of the digital screen above 30 minutes on the brain. It works like cocaine. Harvard uses the word electronic cocaine. Massachusetts uses the word digital heroin. But scientifically speaking, it's more like cocaine. So that's the attention span should be developed. Lifelong, if you keep your attention span like that, you don't get Alzheimer. So at all ages, you must have an internal system of doing one thing for 40 minutes. So wife cooks for 40 minutes, husband eats for 40 minutes, This kind of thing, you have to come to an agreement, so you do things for 40 minutes. Other thing is, if you write in 2 languages, 4 A4 pages, you don't get Alzheimer. You delay the development of Alzheimer. a lifelong habit of writing with your own handwriting. 2 languages is the preventive therapy for Alzheimer. Just showing you how important it is to keep your brain neuroplastic, active and engaged. So that is inattention. It's not only the attention span gets shorter, attention depth gets shallow. So the child is listening to the teacher, but he or she is not absorbing all what the teacher is saying. And inside him, the kid will be saying, boring, useless, I know this, simply because he is not absorbing all what the study has. Because the digital screen is counterproductive for many parts of the studying is a scientific thing. God put it into our head. So studying has connections, collation, recall, memory, application, answering to focus, all that is involved in study. Digital screen works against that. So impulsivity is when the child is on the digital screen, his neurons work in such a way, he's getting onto the next thing before the last thing is over. Next thing, next thing, next thing. So you can see that child like ready to burst into something. That's impulsivity. And hyperactivity is he's doing this, that and the other. Always, can't wait in one place. Usually in Sri Lanka, schools complain, teachers begin to complain that this child is disturbed and disturbs other children. Now these 3 symptoms are also the primary triad of symptoms in ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Inattention, impulsivity, hyperactivity are the key 3 symptoms. When doctors call something syndrome or disorder, what they are camouflaging is ignorance. So that whenever you see something disorder, be extremely suspicious. Same with syndrome. I think syndromes are a little better than disorders. Disorder is an excuse for the pharmaceutical industry to get a drug through. So my research is that children are being diagnosed ADHD unnecessarily, and the pharmaceutical industry has been on a roll getting drugs prescribed. And the pharmaceutical industry cannot work without practitioners and prescribers. Yeah. So that's a completely different subject, how doctors are bribed all the time to prescribe drugs. By the way, my last academic position was head of Department of Pharmacology in a state medical faculty. So this is the subject I am trained in. What do? We do empathic learning therapy in our center, recovering childhood, relearn, retrain, remanage. So when I see a child, I can know whether the child is mildly, moderately or severely affected. A mildly affected child we can reverse the trend of the digital effect in about 6 weeks' time with what we do. The children that come to me, about 30% are what doctors diagnose as ADHD, which means in the mother's womb, the child's brain tracks wired in a certain different way. Child is jittery, inattentive, impulsive, hyperactive. And usually the mother will say you ask questions, mother will say from the first year, child didn't fall asleep easily and did not drink her milk easily. That's how. And ADHD is also about 5-to-1 or 6-to-1. Boys are more affected than girls because the digital stimulation seems to be working with testosterone more powerfully than estrogen. So the male brain is more affected by this phenomenon. So about 30% of the children that come to us, they seem to have had a input of something from the mother's womb that made them jittery, their brain tracks went wrong. So one such thing is now it is known if a mother takes alcohol in any quantity, in pregnancy, the child's brain will be affected in any quantity. This is not fetal alcohol syndrome, this is just any amount of alcohol. So now in 2015, British Pediatric Academy prevailed upon the Royal College of Obstetricians to make a statement on it. For 20 years, medical profession knew that alcohol in any measure by the mother will affect the fetus. But in our modern politically correct society, telling mothers don't take alcohol would be, doctors get they word it like this: no amount of alcohol during pregnancy could be said to be safe. So what is it in plain language? Mom, don't take alcohol when you are carrying a baby. So that would have contributed a lot to the ADHD phenomenon. Mother's digital life, how much what crosses from the placenta into the baby's brain, into which areas, all that is part of the causative factors of ADHD. My topic is not ADHD. The same effects are caused by the digital screen when the child is exposed to the digital screen from young days. So since about 1995 or 2000, loads of children exposed to the digital screen from day dot, isn't it? You see small fellows going chuk 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 on flights, anywhere, anytime, all the time, going in the car, at home, child is put on the smartphone, and that has had consequences. Next one. So this is a long slide presentation. It has those three sections, basically speaking. Pathophysiology of digital surplus, digital setup for addiction, just one clarifying word. So the digital stimulation chemicalizes the brain. What is the digital stimulation? The pixel screen, the LED screen is made of pixels. Pixel screen directly fires photons into the retina, and that causes neuronal changes as well as neurochemical changes. That chemistry change in the brain makes the child susceptible to other chemical intrusions. Give me a bay if you understood that. So when the child's internal chemistry is abnormal because of the digital screen stimulation, child gets predisposed to and vulnerable to trying other chemical substances. That is why crystal meth, ecstasy, dancing, in Sri Lanka we have a tablet called apple. Now this is not Steve Jobs' apple, this is not the Garden of Eden apple, it's a combination of cocaine, crystal meth and a bit of a cocktail. It comes from Pakistan to our country. I'm sure social workers and other people who are dealing with the problem will know the kind of drugs that children take innocently during school life. In Colombo, the situation is almost 90% of schools have Colombo and suburbs, have a father who is peddling drugs through the son in any grade. So in any grade there would be a son of a drug peddling father selling drugs in school. Yeah. I don't know how safe the Australian school system is as far as selling drugs in the school goes. Maybe you have better checks and balances. How do you think? How do you think? Is drug peddling going on in schools? Student to student? Yeah, I don't know the Australian situation, but in Colombo, in our research, we found this all the time. So digital setup for drug addiction, the take-home point is this: when the child is on the digital screen too much, I define too much, more than 30 minutes, the brain chemistry of dopamine, serotonin goes wrong, and that makes them to look for more stimulants. Did you understand that? Yes, remedial measures. Next one. Next one. This is a long slide, as I told you. Generations, digital stimulant effect has 5 components: dopamine, serotonin, top-down, bottom-up regulation, curricular potential, and 7 brain tracks. Those are the graphics. Pixels-driven neurotoxicity, attention span, and early remedies. So let's, next one. I think some more contents in the next one. Next one, yeah. Okay. Now, the Bible has something to say about this generation. Now, if you want the whole topic, you need to take this book and read. This is $10. This is written to a secular audience, so it has only technical stuff. This is written to Christian parents. My vision is that a Christian home has this book, every Christian home to get this. This has less technical content, but enough technical content to engage you as a parent in a digitally dominant age, not to be clueless. On this score, ignorance is not bliss. The digital screen is so prevalent and ubiquitous, you need to know how it affects your child's learning, behavior, friendships, isn't it? So this book, I hope Christian parents will take it, and if you give it to a friend who is not even a Christian, they'll appreciate the sociological parenting input this gives. So this is intentionally written that even an unbeliever will read it and say, this Christian seems to be having some good stuff. This, of course, is completely technical. You can give it to schools, teachers, or whatever. This is the small version. I don't know whether Australians are lazy or energetic. This is for lazy people, but it is still good, okay? All right. Meaning it gives in a nutshell. Those who want everything in a nutshell, you know, those who have 1.5 hours any day, any time for football, but don't have 1.5 hours to read a book, this is the book. All right. So here is Proverbs 30. There's a generation that curses their father and does not bless their mother, which means this generation's major problem is with dad. And it is not children who start problems, it is the dad who starts problems. So often in my public lectures, I go on for some time and I say, you know, there's another issue. You know, they're all gung-ho about these children who are too much on the digital screen and too much on this and behaves like Benton and so on. Then at a certain point I say, there's another problem that many homes have a 40-year-old male child who's addicted to the digital screen. So I just let it drop and all the ladies start smiling, and then I say, who's that 40-year-old male child? The father here. So this generation has a real head-on confrontation with dad. But with mom, they manage, isn't it? So we have to find a spiritual solution for this. Anyway, it has to start with when God was reconciling the world, he died on the cross, isn't it? So when dad is reconciling home, who dies on the cross? Not mom, but dad. So when appointments are asked for my clinic, I don't charge. Always it's, whom do you think calls? It's mom who calls. And then my secretary will say, doctor will not see the child unless both father and mom comes. Then mother gives all kinds of excuses. He has a board meeting, he goes to the gym, he has a Lions meeting, he has a JC's meeting here. Whatever she says, I don't see the child till both parents come. Since I don't charge and there's no other empathic learning center in Colombo, they come. Then I keep asking questions, so mom answers. So I look at dad and say, what's the son's age? And he looks at mom. Then mom answers. Then I say, what's the child's age? So after about 4 or 5 questions of persecuting dad, he gets into it, this is your problem. You get what I mean. When things are going okay, mom makes it daily safe. She's a preserver. But when things are not going okay, and for the next step and the next stretch, dad has to be there. Mom can't do it. So my advice is, before things go wrong, give the next step and the next stretch to your child at every age. And I told this in the morning, I think, for the men's meeting. Any day, 8:30 to 9 p.m., dad, your time belongs at your child's bedside. Start it early, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. At 8:30 in the night, where do you belong? At your child's bedside. Now at that time, the Croatian president is about to hug the football captain. But you're not on the screen, you're on the You're at the child's bedside. Can you make that commitment and recommend it to others? So in that 30 minutes, you always read a story that stretches your child's imagination. I mean, David Livingstone in Africa, or Tenzing and Hillary climbing Everest, or whatever. Then of course, if you're a Christian, Bible has so many stories that will engage them in a little, isn't it? Daniel in the lion's den, or David slaying Goliath, or whatever it is. So the child gets a stretch from, do you understand stretch? Next step, bicycle is enough. You know, in Sri Lanka, of course, you can take the fellow to the beach anytime. So I'm pleading with dads in all my public lectures, 8:30 to 9 in the night belongs to your son and daughter. When you cultivate this habit, they are 8, 9, 10, you're still in their room. Then 12, 13, 14, they will not say, my room is my room, nobody else is coming to my room. Because all your lifetime, every day, you had this deep discussion with your son and daughter. Scientific subjects, every dad should be competent to do Genesis chapter 1, 2, 3 till Genesis chapter 1 to 10. Actually, I want to write something, how you can do this with 5-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 12-year-olds. In a way, you engage science, archaeology, history, questions, you understand. So those are interacting times. So that's about how to not get into this situation where there's a fracture between dad and son. There is a generation that are pure in their own eyes and yet is not washed from their own filth. So this generation has learned to consume anything too fast, too soon, too much. So they don't think the limits are there, isn't it? So you have to attend on that early. There's a generation of how lofty are their eyes and their eyelids are lifted up. So it's not enough. They always want the next thing. You know, iPhone 9 is out, isn't it? Whether parents can afford or not, they want the next thing. So in a country like ours, it becomes a real problem because parents can't afford outside things. Another thing is happening now, I don't know how the Australian scene is, when girls want Q-Tex, lipstick, glitter and other little things they like to have, and parents can't afford it, they go out with boys to get the stuff. This may not be relevant to your society, but in Sri Lanka it's happening. So I should not be speaking too much about that because your relevance is here. How lofty are their eyes? There's a generation whose teeth are like swords and their jaw teeth like knives, so they are the rude words, harsh words, cutting words, you know, they just come out of them all the time. We took this up last night also. And I saw this pair of scissors, the mouth working like a pair of scissors, very cutting, very cutting, very cutting. So we need remedies for these things, isn't it? So we have to cultivate a spiritual heart. In my public lectures, I can't say we have to cultivate a spiritual heart. I get to it at the end of the lecture in a section called Mistake Management. So all my public lectures in Colombo and suburbs, far away in other places, my aim is to get a door open for people to consider God as their father, Jesus as their shepherd, and for parenting now you really desperately need help from the Lord. Next. So what is the digital stimulant effect? Time length of exposure to the LED screen, if it's more than 25 minutes, the neuronal firing order changes. Neurons fire in a unidirectional preferred mode firing, that's how God has designed. That's the technical word, unidirectional preferred mode. My books will have it, maybe a slide later will have it. But when the child is on the digital screen for more than 25 minutes, what happens is the neurons get into multidirectional non-preferred mode firing, which means each neuron is now tending to get inputs from different dendrites, whereas the physiological design of a neuron is to get one input at a time and send it down through the axon I should be giving, Tushita, I should be giving them that handout I gave, that clipped, clipped document set. Here. No, the printed one we gave last Saturday. You remember clipped one? LED screen is a pixel screen. So the pixel screen fires photons directly into the eye, smartphone, iPad and tab, but laptop and desktop are backlit. There's a LCD in front of the LED. So you have to train your young people to, if they are long on work, do it on your laptop. And since laptop can't be held in the hand for a long time, they will tend to use it less. And if you can get onto that fearless stage of telling your son or daughter, you can use the laptop only in a public place, you'll be breaking a record. Because parents feel so, you have to give in to in so many ways. So I recommend that, not only I, now it's medical advice, don't let your child go to the room at 9 p.m. for sleep with the digital gadget. That's recommended medical advice. Don't allow your child to go to the room with the digital gadget after 9 p.m. Recently there's an article from a private school in England. They take all digital gadgets at 9 p.m., mind you, in England. And students agree to it. Of course, it's a private fee-living school. So they can have their rules. Students agree to it. How much digital effect on the retina depends on the pixels per inch of a smartphone, PPI. Sometime back the smartphone screen exceeded the retinal concentration of rods and cones. You remember rods and cones in the eye? We see with rods and cones. Retina has rods and cones. Little cells that see, and with rods we see when the light is failing. Okay. Anyway, retinal concentration of retinal cells is 247. When the smart screen went past that, it was called retinal. Now a smartphone would be about 600 or more PPI. All the time now it's 4K, isn't it? You are increasing the pixel concentration in an inch. So more pixel densities, the more the stimulation on the brain. Rate of pixel change in the program you are looking at. So fast digital games and fast cartoons will be changing the pixels so fast, so the stimulation is greater. Older cartoons are slow, slow meaning the pixel change is slow. Color change, sound change, all that is slower in older cartoons. Time of exposure effect is more when you are watching the screen after 6 p.m. After 6 p.m. brain secretes melatonin from a little gland called pineal gland, not pituitary, pineal gland. And melatonin is involved in sound sleep. It's part of God's creation. When we go to sleep, there's a fabulous system that goes to work on the brain, getting the brain back into next day's working order. So when you have had sound sleep, physiological sleep, you wake up in the morning with good memory, refreshed, ready for the next day. When children don't get up like that, they are grouchy and they are complaining, can't go to school and so on. So one day this child was not getting up to go to school, so mother said, "What's the meaning of this? You have to get to school. School starts at 8 o'clock, now it is 7:30, you are still in bed, please get up, please get up." He's not getting up. Then mother said, "What's the meaning of this? Today is the first day of the term, you have to go to school on time, please get up." He's not getting up. Then the mother said, "What's the meaning of this? Today is the first day of school, of the term, and you are the principal of the school." So that's one problem of late night screen time. So when you have to negotiate with your child, plead with them, don't get to the screen unnecessarily after 6 p.m. Then for studies, you have to negotiate with this with school also. If the school instructs, they'll believe better. When parents instruct, they may not believe. But I'm speaking not as a parent, I'm speaking as a scientist. Somehow negotiate with your children to get to the laptop or the desktop after 6 p.m. Give me a wave if you can, even for school studies. Get to the laptop or the desktop after 6 p.m. so that you preserve your memory and you are ready through sleep to get up next day refreshed. Sleep has NREM and REM. NREM is non-rapid eye movement and REM is rapid eye movement. That's the time you dream. Rapid eye movement, you dream. Usually it starts at about 12:30, goes on till about 4 a.m. You must try to preserve this time of sleep. This is called deep sleep, this is necessary sleep. 3 to 4 cycles. REM, you see dream, no dream, see dream, no dream, see dream, no dream, see dream, no dream, and you wake up. This is important. And if you see dream and go to the toilet and get back, you'll start off the dream from that point to stop. So in the night, don't have LED light in your bathroom. LED light disturbs melatonin secretion. In your home, don't have LED lights for reading. You'll save the electricity bill and ruin your retina. What do you want to ruin, the electricity bill or the retina? So LED lights being ubiquitous is a big problem. Road light, traffic lights, everywhere LED lights is a big problem. Works against memory, works against sleep. So there's a lot of research you can Google and see LED light and sleep, LED lights and depression, you know. It's responsible for many subliminal medical phenomena. It's imperceptibly going on. So you need this NRE, these 2 sleep cycles for your brain processes to function well. Brain can't multitask, so do one thing at a time. So you have to plead with your child, study for 40 minutes, then maybe 5 minutes of Instagram or Snapchat or Vimo or Vine, what else do you have? Facebook for old people, whatever. So keep your attention span for 40 minutes, and having studied for 40 minutes, if you do something that is pixel intense in the next 15 minutes, you will erase what you studied. And when you have to be on the screen studying, we have to tell them to have a tweezer in their fingers and, you know, get your small muscles working. Medical remedy for reversing the digital effect is getting your small muscles working, even the toes. So barefooted on a rough coir carpet. Have you seen coir carpet? In Sri Lanka we have all the time, you know, coir woven. So that you intentionally, you know what I mean, you twiggle your toes on the carpet and you do tweezer things. You can also chew nuts, or a bad habit of chewing gum even is useful to get rid of the digital impressions on the brain. You can Google fit kids. That's what Harvard published last year, but we have been doing this for about 4 years now. You can Google fit kids, you can add Harvard, and you will find what it is. We call this empathic motor therapy. All this you have in this book, so please take a book. And principle is, we get children into grips and ropes and different things in our empathic learning center. It is 3,600 square feet. And a 90-minute prescription. So my prescription for this is this kind of thing. Molding clay, arts, crafts, music. Flute is very good because you're concentrating on the eye and your mouth is moving and your fingers are moving. String instruments are better than keyboards, but any music is good. Because string instruments, your deep pressure touch runs in thick fibers in the brain. Same with proprioception. Proprioception is when I close my eye, will this finger get to my tip of my nose? What do you say? Is it going there? Yes. You try it yourself. Close your eyes. No cheating, close your eyes. Yeah. Is the finger going to your nose or next person's nose? It went there, isn't it? So that's the sense, that is when your fingers are moving through the space, that uses the thickest fibers in the brain. So, and that works on a neurochemical transmitter called glutamate. That can be used to reverse the effect of digital stimulation on dopamine tracks. We are getting it now. Next slide. That's a neuron. Dendrites bring the influence, stimuli, and the axon delivers the action. And at the end of the axon would be the receptor. And every receptor works with neurochemical transmitters. Common ones you know is adrenaline, isn't it? You all have heard adrenaline. Dog looks at you, you look at the dog, dog is scared, dog has adrenaline, and you're scared, you have adrenaline. I mean, that adrenaline you know. Dopamine and serotonin are the most important neurochemical transmitters in executive empathic conceptualizing action. Executive, empathic, conceptualizing, and action. Initiation, navigation, end conclusion. Well done. Did you understand that? So we think, I'm touching here because our conceptualizing executive empathic action is here in the prefrontal cortex, right up here. We think and do. We don't want to react and do. We'll come to that in the next slide. Yes, next slide. These are two curves. When we think and do, dopamine helps in the do for 40 minutes and dopamine comes down. Can you see that curve coming down? This is the, you have the laser point. I think I have the laser point. You have a just to show them, you know. Can you see our language, that the letters are, yes, that the letters are very, very rounded. Same with the Tamil language, this Sinhala language. So our letters have clockwise movement and anti-clockwise movement. Did you see that? Now you understand why Sri Lankans are brilliant. Simply because of our letters make us to do our brain tracks properly. No, that's not science, that's a joke. So this is the dopamine curve. We think, do, and the curve goes down in 40 minutes. What we are doing, you want to sit back, do a self-check after that. That is serotonin. So dopamine works for salience. In English language, you have this, get to the salient point. Dopamine keeps the focus. And serotonin looks back for satiety. Did I do it well? How do I do it better? Did I understand that? We don't think about it. This is called default mode network of thought. This is how God has designed our brain. It must be God, isn't it? This couldn't be Darwin. This is God, how He has wired our brain. It's very precise. Now, if children are on the digital screen endlessly, after 30 minutes, what happens is this dopamine doesn't come down, it wants to go up, 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 up. You lose self-check. Self-check says, how did I do it? What do I do next? Dopamine says, do, same thing, do more. That is the digital screen. Now, did you understand digitalized behavior? They are not thinking about what happened. In fact, after 1.5 on the digital screen, they can't remember a thing of what happened. They're only thinking of the next platform, next this thing, next thing. It goes on like that. So it's very abusive, addictive behavior. And who put the child on the screen? Who put the child on the screen? Parents did. I had recently a case, mother is on the digital screen while breastfeeding. Milk stops. And the little fellow doesn't form any language. He knows there's no eye contact. He's not into sucking. So little fellow sucking is the most brilliant activity for him at that age. 40% of our motor cortex and sensory cortex neurons serve the mouth, the buccal cavity, and fingers, and eye movement. So for him at that early age, it's very important brain building activity besides the fact that he gets his nutrition from it. So these are other side issues. Next, excuse me. So I have, so when someone is on the digital screen without stopping, it goes on with dopamine increasing, serotonin can't act, and the stimulation, physiological receptor is D1, addictive receptor is D2, so the dopamine stimulation moves from the physiological D1 to D2, which is cocaine behavior. Did you hear that? So if you are in the, I have a document for doctors. Did I give that? That is a refereed article, it's up on the website of Ceylon College of General Practitioners. Anyone else in the medical profession? This is quite technical, but my other books also have a reasonably technical explanation. So this is cocaine behavior. Okay, next slide. This is how we think. PFC is what? Prefrontal cortex, normal thinking, studying behavior. Executive, you think and do, empathic, good for you, good for others. Reflective, creative, initiation, navigation, and conclusion, reward. This is how we make decisions and do. Okay? When you're on the digital screen, you're not thinking and doing. Screen is smart, you are becoming stupid. Because screen initiates first, everything. Any digital game, first move is from the screen, yes or no? So you are reacting, your reflex action to what the screen decided. So we have to explain this scientifically to our kids and saying, you're not getting smart, you're becoming robotic. Obviously, isn't it? This is not rocket science. So that is called bottom-up regulation because things from outside are now stimulating you. So any outside stimulus will get their attention. Their inward logical processes have scuttled. Get the point? Yeah. So they are in dyspathy, impulsive, repetitive, reflexive, reactive. This is thrill, survival pattern of behavior. This is cortical, this is subcortical survival. You are not getting smart. You are just on thrill, experiments, peril. You are on continual fight, fright, flight mode. So what is physiological has become pathophysiological. Understood? There are a few other terms. What is allostasis, which is physiological, homeostasis, which is physiological, has become allostasis, which is stress and pathological. Just by watching the digital screen, okay? So you take the child to a psychiatrist, they'll prescribe drugs. Take the child to a pediatrician, they are more reticent about prescribing drugs unnecessarily. What we do is, we do empathic learning therapy as long as it is needed, but we need the cooperation of parents. So what do you think parents will like to do? Bring a child for 1.5 hours on a Friday every week to the empathic learning center, or go to a doctor, do a consultation and give drugs ever after. What do you think parents like to do? I'll repeat my question. Yeah, one-time drugs and the child is becoming a zombie, problem is not getting solved, problem is only getting delayed. So in empathic learning therapy, consultation takes about 40 minutes or more. Most of the time convincing dad, if you do this, your child will get back to normal, good grades at school, you will have a child forever. Of course, I have to tell them with empathy, slowly, without badgering them. They are already distressed. Distressed people are unreasonable, and the son is in front of me, so I have to speak to both together. All three parties together, mom, dad, and child. It's possible, takes a lot of time. And if they are open, then I tell them about the Lord who can always help also. So these are the two tracks. This is what we should be doing. This is what we should not be getting into. Next track. Next graphic, yeah. How long have we gone on? 4:35. There's a question-answer time, and there, in the clip documents you got, there's a paper to be filled up with your details and to ask an intelligent question. Yes. This is 7 brain tracks. This is not original, this is by Dr. Howard Gardner. First track that develops is the empathic intuitive track, how much bonding child receives from mom. This starts in the womb. So every bit of maternal attention is very important for the child, even while the child is in the womb. So when we were in medical faculties, we were told about the maternal deprivation syndrome. If mother feels deprived and mother deprives the child, it has an effect on the child's brain and child's character, of course. Does dad have any behavioral effect on the child in the womb? Yes, via the mom, isn't it? So dad looks after mom so that mom can look after the child. That's how it goes. Empathic relationalist, he is now thinking about relating to others. Linguistic tract, before the age of 2.5 years, I would say 3 years. American Pediatric Association says 2.5 years. Never, never give the screen. That is medical recommendation. I repeat, before the age of 2.5 years, do not give the screen. Now this is medical advice, standard, and still parents don't know this. When I was flying in here, there was an Australian couple, little sweet fellow, and he's quite happy by himself, but they're giving him the smartphone. I couldn't understand. Then of course he looks at it like that. So the screen is 2D, all of life is 3D. So when a child is touching cubes, objects, toys, toddles around, his brain wires 3D, which is 2 into the power 3. When you put the child on the screen, he doesn't remove his bottom, he just sits and So his brain wires 2 into the power 2, 4. How much is the reduction of brain wiring? Wiring meaning synapsing? 50% reduction. Who causes this? Who causes this? Yeah. So it's serious. Sad and tragic, isn't it? Yeah. So you have to take this message to your friends. I feel church has to take on this to instruct parents in parenting habits, including the screen. So what I recommend is, buy even 2 copies of this book and give it to parents. This is very simple. They'll get it with scientific evidence why this is so important. So no screen before the age of 2.5, use scramble language. So of the children that come to me, about 1/4 come because child's brain tracts are affected from mother's womb. Usually doctors diagnose ADHD and children would be on drugs. So we have to get them off drugs, get them off to empathic learning therapy and explain to parents. I find at least 1/3 of the parents, before they come to me, they say, "Doctor, we realize the drug is doing no good. It only made matters worse," and they have themselves discontinued the drug. The next 1/4 come at the age of about 6 or 7. Child's language has scrambled. Till 6 years, child can say things by rote, reciting like a parrot. So they hear things off the screen or from parents, so they recite by memory. But after 6, they have to form language, they have to form sentences. Then the child gets very frustrated. In my presence, they start hitting mom. I don't know why they don't hit dad. What do you think? I think intuitively, child has a sense, Mom, you should have protected me from this disaster. They can't talk. They're just scrambling for words, very angry. They're in school now, they can't learn. If you haven't learned language, you can't study, isn't it? Up to the age of 3, any child can learn 2 languages effortlessly, phonemes and all, grammar, structure and everything. You teach the child 2 languages, the child will speak without you saying this is Chinese, this is English, child will speak both languages easily. But that facility is not there after the age of 3. So first 3 years of life, bonding, infant-directed speech, you talking to the child is the way to go. All e-marketing techniques about e-learning, absolute myth, fib for profit of the market. Did you get that? Does market make myth? Yeah, market makes myth for profit. That's how it goes. I have given citations and references. You can take the book and have a look. So this is the track with which children plan, forward planning, managerial, logical. That track must be developed. If the child is put on the screen overmuch, he will only wire the kinesthetic, acoustic and visual. These are the show tracks, show work tracks. These are the do work tracks. All of us need a little bit of show, isn't it? We need kinesthesia, we need acoustic, we need visual. But the digital screen overwires the latter 3, dumbing down the former 3. So this pushes children into pictorial processing. They see pictures moving, they can't plan. This is verbal processing, how you plan and do. Okay? That's a brief summary of what the digital revolution has done. So as a result, Y-Gen, who first got exposed to the digital revolution, the world managed with them by having graduate degrees for hospitality, fashion, decor, entertainment, music, drama. So universities developed curricula for that wave of brain going that way. Now the next generation, the I-Gens, are completely on the screen. If you ask them what you hope to become, they will say game engineers. So you have to recreate world in the image of the ash screen. So their whole world is fantastic, fabulous. Their virtual reality is up there, monsters, spooky. You get the point? Sci-fi. They think that's the world. So that's the change that the digital revolution has brought. Questions? If you found something I said not consistent, please ask me. Yes?
Recognising the concerns which you're pointing out, in your case in Sri Lanka, is the government aware and trying to remedy or rectify some of these realities by perhaps a change in educational systems?
Now, we met with the present president, and gave him a 10-point action plan. One was prohibit play schools from using the digital screen. Whereas it's difficult to prohibit schools from using the digital screen. Professor Manfred Spitzer, you can refer him. He's a German neuropsychiatrist. Manfred Spitzer, S-P-I-T-Z-E-R. In 1992, he said, don't give the screen for studies before the age of 12. He said it long ago. It's still current and still fact. So we recommended that play schools should not use the screen. Play schools should have tires, ropes, swings, contactile things for the child. And our government was trying to give tablets to classes. That was stopped. So that hasn't happened, but all international schools, many private schools have given tabs for children to study, as it has happened in Australia. So with the education system like that, we have to give children clues how not to get digitalized. So after 30 minutes, stop the screen. Do, I told you, tweezers, twiddle the toes, get up, stretch. Now in the corporate, graphic people are asked to do that. Munch something so that you get this jaw muscles working and so on. And you have to plead with them and say, since you're already on the screen for studies, please don't do entertainment on the screen. And then you have to somehow transfer them from the smartphone to the laptop, which is less injurious. Then you have to plead saying, please after 6 p.m. don't go to do entertainment. Keep your night time free, don't take your digital gadget to your bedroom. So you have to go on pleading, and parents have got a bill that you have to raise up this generation also with sense and sensibility. The common excuse is the whole world is going digital. That doesn't help studying. So research is completely dumbed down because the computer can't think research. Computer can only collate what researchers have done. Of course, when AI comes, things may be different. Recently, Prof. John Lennox and Dr. White and some other Christian intellectuals in London did a seminar on artificial intelligence. Google artificial intelligence plus John Lennox, you'll get it. Worth going through it. But it hasn't come. And the Lord told me the other day, before it comes, the Lord will come. 2019, July 21st, He's coming. No, that's a joke. But as of now, research has really dumbed down. Research has become fake. People are stealing from each other. Hardly any original research. In the medical field, all pharmaceutical drugs that were used for put aside became useless. Are being reharvested. Once upon a time, you made drugs for disease. Now upon a time, you make diseases so that drugs can have a market. That's what's happening. You define syndromes, define disorders and so on. Yes?
On that point,
yeah.
Has there been time for scientific research to actually demonstrate the dangers of what you're presenting here this afternoon?
Yes. Now, nobody in Silicon Valley sends children to schools with digital screen. They have Waldorf schools. They only have blackboard and white chalk. The most qualified and high-tech fellows don't send their children to normal school. They send children to schools that does not have the screen. World is wicked, isn't it?
So they're aware of the reality.
They are aware of the reality. I mean, it was well known that Steve Jobs did not give the screen at home. I mean, it's everywhere. So that's a fact. So in our country, after my lectures, our school did not take the tab. Government schools does not have the digital screen. But they market it saying your brain becomes brilliant if you're on the digital screen, which is not so. You lose learning and curricular potential. Any other questions? Yes. As the LED screen gets more pixel intense, it will have the same effect. Having said that, effect also depends on whether the program is using that kind of pixel intensity that distorts the neuronal firing and the neurochemical balance. So watching a normal film, movie, or a cricket match certainly doesn't upset your brain. But watching one of those very brutal American rugger kind of thing might. No, I'm just here. You know, so the point is, usual television screen, the movies move at a certain rate, pixels are used at a certain rate. Certainly don't be at it for more than 2 hours. Don't be at it till bedtime because it will disturb your sleep. So those are, you know, that's the difference. Then you have night vision screens, so that the LED effect, the blue frequency effect on melatonin is not there. The blue frequency depresses melatonin secretion. LED screens have a higher percentage of blue frequency. That also you can Google effects of blue frequency on the brain. Okay then. So please take one or all of the books. This is for Christian parenting, but even an unbeliever may appreciate it. This is technical. This is for lazy people to get a quick fix. But it's quite good, you know. I mean, most mothers may appreciate this because it quickly gives them the topic and they'll be happy for it. In one sitting they can go through this. It has enough scientific fact. This is called Mom, Dad and Mistake Management. This is to read with your kid. This is written in that style. Paragraph a day. You come to some agreements in the family about digital behavior. This book helps to that end, towards that end. Thank you. Yeah.
Lalith, you mentioned last Saturday not to let kids get used to watching the screen while eating.
Yes. Yes. Small fellows, or for that matter big fellows. Eating, feeding time is the most brain-absorbing time. All senses are on alert. So please don't use that time to show the screen. It becomes a lifelong habit. Whatever you do with your feeding time becomes lifelong habit, because feeding time is the most bonding time. So I tell parents, you know, mom, somehow try to be there for breakfast, certainly for dinner, you know what I mean. And you personally be there, interact with the little fellow. So don't show the screen at the feeding time, which is a terrible mistake. If you want to create an addiction, do it at feeding time.
And also you said after they go to bed, in the dark room,
Yes.
the effects of the
Yeah.
screen are
Much more, because melatonin secretion is inhibited. So do your best to negotiate that after 9 p.m. digital gadget will not be in your child's room. Too much of a temptation. Again, this is not conservative church advice. This is now medical advice. Recently, BBC had an article on it. Imagine, the liberal, modernist, left-leaning BBC telling parents it might be a better thing not to keep the digital gadget in your child's room after 9 p.m. I mean, BBC is the Bible of the atheists, isn't it? Yeah. BBC is the British Broadcasting Corporation.
We have the
ABC, yeah. ABC had quite, you sent me some articles like, isn't it? Yeah. Okay.